Okay, I guess we're ready to go. So, first of all, welcome to everyone joining us today at this Medinea On Air session from Lisbon, Portugal. We are at Escola Superior de Música. And as you know, Medinea On Air is an online program supported by the Erasmus Plus program. And we have today with us Afonso Pais. Afonso Pais is a wonderful jazz musician, jazz guitarist and composer. And he is going to share with us his insights on the connection between guitar performance and vocal. So, Afonso, I give you the floor. Thank you, and please go ahead.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Afonso Pais. Thanks for the invitation. It's good to be here to share a little bit of what has been some of my musical experience throughout the years, mostly as a guitar player and composer, more specifically in matters related to the ongoing work I have done with singers and how it has impacted me deeply. Teaching has also been a passion of mine, and I took the challenge since early in my career, having always in my mind my own experience as a student, as a listener, but most of all as a music lover. Music has not one but multiple dimensions to it, no doubt, and the presence in everyone's life is as unique and irreplaceable as life itself. All I know for sure is that everyone needs continuity in order to get better as a musician, and continuity is not a possibility without motivation, self-motivation. In other words, being motivated. For me, motivation has always been about enjoyment. Firstly, as a listener that could understand just a tiny little bit of how the favorite songs or solos would be playable in an instrument. For me, first the piano, later the guitar. Understanding is the key word here. To listen to the music and to create processes of exercising the imagination so it could work in such ways that it would allow me to trust, to believe that I will be able to know how to reproduce what I had previously heard once I get a hold of an instrument. This approach meant that there were often some sort of new thought processes in the making, so long as there was new musical content to unlock. It also meant the instrument took a secondary role to start with. Secondly, the discovery of the instrument as a source for reiterated pleasure, after some of the more elemental basics and beginner rudimentary breakthroughs were overcome. Though the slowly built knowledge of the instrument as a treasure trove of potentially everlasting playing pleasures, came also the perception of the so-called language, instruments as a tool for musical ideas, places where it feels good and sounds good to play a certain phrase in a certain way, whether it impacts the music played collectively in a positive way, or it just gets every other guitarist excited, or a singer, or a saxophonist, or a drummer, etc. Thirdly, the repertoire. Strangely enough, but also understandably so, the musical compositions I had fallen in love with were the first emotional bonds with music, the first music-related emotions that I could remember upon recall. So why did the repertoire came about long after I was able to enjoy hours on end messing about on the guitar, playing bits and pieces of whatever excerpt of a song or someone's solo? No explanation is plentiful, but most certainly a lack of depth in my ability at that time to comprehend the melody and the harmony integration, not even talking about the subtleties of it, but within the basic framework of a song, for instance, that would allow me to grasp the meaning of a musical narrative as the composer had intended. So the harmonic ear is an arrival point after most of every other thing is understood and perspective is taken. And the composition, in the instance of a tonal composition, and regardless of its complexity, reveals itself as you wander through both its particularities as well as its commonplaces. Where it's just like those other songs I know, if it is the commonplaces, or which moments imprint it as unique, and to what extent those musical fingerprints require me to deepen my understanding of what meaning does to that new sound. The most typical way is to look for other instances in which the same composer uses a similar music passage. In other words, to hear the many contexts a given phrase or harmony movement is presented on. To exemplify one of the most meaningful experiences I had, working together with the composer to propose my own idea of an alternate set of changes for each song, here goes Considerando by Erol.
O navegante da lua, considerando os meus erros e modestos acertos, eu me achei no direito de ao menos pedir que o claro cruel da lua, que o fogo feroz do dia paguem o preço da lembrança das longas noites vazias.
So, as we heard, the harmony used for the lyrics was not the same as was used for the guitar solo. But the goal was instead to search for a set of chords that were both great to solo on and that would resemble as much as possible the impression the original set of changes imparted in me. This was a strong lesson on how important it is to make the most valuable and functional set of changes for your own music too. But to look for ways to portray your compositions freely and not compromising just because you want to have some good changes later to solo on. So distinguishing melody, solos, creating a comfortable platform for singing on, freeing space, and are some of the main considerations when working with a singer-songwriter. Erol's music is characterized, among many other standout features, by a willingness to use a vast spectrum of melody, harmony, seldom heard relationships, in such a way that one is aware of how unique and sophisticated the musical solutions used turned out to be, but at the same time, how seamlessly and thorough the contexts that allow those solutions to work are created. Songs in Brazilian music were a strong influence in my guitar playing. The guitar in Brazilian music is the main instrument around which the very interesting intersection of classical and popular music happens. The violão even took the tasks of being a substitute for the bass whenever there wasn't one around, which is often. After some time working together with several singers, a chance arose to work with a Portuguese singer-songwriter, G.P. Simões, in a well-defined musical partnership that culminated in a record of original music by me with lyrics by him. In our record, On Nuoro, one of the compositions culminated in a circular canon-like section, replicating a phonetical sound repeating word game GTA than before, influencing this following passage played by bass flutes, alto sax, flugelhorn, and trombone. Example 2. The tone, timbre, recognizing someone when they just played one note is a commonplace in conversations concerning jazz music and jazz musicians. It brings the identity factor to the realm of the improvisation, even before the phrasing or time feel have given us the chance of unraveling who is the non-player or improviser in question. Many do have the knowledge and the skills, but fewer have the sound. I never felt closer to this motto than when being inspired by singers. The way a sound containing a musical note conveys a message, even before it created a musical statement, is an everlasting source of concise material from which to draw on. Plus, we're spectacularly well prepared to recall the tone of the voice, as it is our own communication vehicle and musical innate point of departure. Rita Maria was a close musical partner for many years, and many of the compositions took her voice as a known and recognizable vehicle that was ideal as a test bed for what worked for vocals, for me, for instance. This was so because knowing how the music she was singing was supposed to sound to work with the voice, by knowing me well as a musician and composer, Rita was therefore giving me an insight on the discrepancies between the melody imagined beforehand versus the real melody, how it sounded when she sang it. And by doing that, I could predict the results better and better beforehand with every time we practiced or played live. Few examples 3 with Rita. Recalling the timbre of a certain singer delivering the message of a certain set of lyrics, or as in the example we just listened to, melody. The natural flow of knowledge can and should arise, letting you inform your musical choices if you are playing by means of emotionally charging the tone and expression.
Afonso, peço desculpa. Afonso. Luan, por favor. Pá. Obrigado.
By means of emotionally charging the tone and expression of your notes, as if it would have the ability of emulating the broadness of a human voice, containing both the seeds of the melodies and the syllables, words, sentences, capabilities. Conversely, singing a certain melody that had its origin in a technical gesture which is especially pleasurable to perform on an instrument, trying to adapt to it in ways that bring some of the original music meaning back to it, deepens the understanding of each of the instrument's breadth of possibilities to communicate in a given musical context. Few example 4, de Orlando Santos, era redondo vocábulo.
Era redondo vocábulo, uma soma agreste.
Okay, this example portrays a specific situation where the low string on the guitar was tuned down to an E flat, allowing for a different take on the usual low E string conventional tuning, or the more usual detuning to a low D, as in Baden-Powell's Drimbau. This relates to the innovation. Look for points of reference in known repertoire and stick to those sounds you instinctively feel you are running away from for as long as is needed so that you can correct your musical phrase. Look for the reason why you like a certain musical moment, be it a band interaction, a drummer kick, a melody that sounds familiar, but somehow every time you try it and quote it, it seems to please you. So basically, we're talking about exercises on liberating the bass note, in this case, from its conventional bass line function. Low to high register, root to extensions, giving it a contrapunctual nature, one that is more symbiotic to the guitar's skeletal nature. View example 5, Chic Wax Zelin. Okay, in the guitar, melody and harmony are not readily available through the number of notes or the linear key to sound organization or the logical right, left hand of the piano. So in order to approach the best compromise possible of being functional in a solo setting, as this example was proposing to portray, or an ear development should also be consequent from some sort of previously prepared solo pieces, meaning pieces where part of it is prepared and some other space is saved so that you can do variations on it, let's say. I recently used some Chico Buarque songs as a platform, keeping the timbre of his voice always close to my thoughts when progressing with an arrangement to especially fit the guitar. The next one, by Chico Buarque, Estação de Rabeira, uses each chord and chord change as a means to emphasize the percussive nature of the guitar. A little bit like in a traditional jazz context, the block chords played by a piano interacting with the drums works. In this example, an imaginary bateria de Escola de Samba. To example 6. The next one deals with crossing registers without it interfering in the clarity with which each melody moves. It's both an arrangement and a technical challenge. To example 7, Morro dos Irmãos, by Chico Buarque. Lastly, from this solo series, a little bit of all that was mentioned respecting the 3 previous examples, plus a sense of reinterpretation with more liberty to reharmonize freely as digested. To example 8, Basta dia, Chico Buarque. Working with Salvador Sobral was a great experience. I invited him to sing Erol. The lyrics and melody meet in a very particular way. Salvador, as a vocalist, makes every register sound possible and almost equally effortless. And that's saying a lot in terms of the liberty one has to write a clear melody, where delivering the poetic meanings doesn't need to be correlated to emphasizing the lyrical message by means of using any specific register of the voice. Cue example 9, Erol with Salvador Sobral.
É tão ermo amor que de amar quis partir sem nada. Hoje quero sair ao encontro da madrugada. Ser e nada mais calar a dor que me assalta assim e leva de mim nos braços uma outra aurora. E para que esperar se o fim do querer trouxe o amor à rua? Sei que agora é hora de ver-te a medo e falta tudo para que esta vida se perca assim no esquecer cativo de um ermo amor. Resto meu peito agreste sem jeito como quem
The next example reveals a bit of my most recent work with a fantastic unit of three vocalists. All great singers individually that I got interested in interacting with in a kind of collective co-creation workshop. The briefing to start with was to create a dynamic, interactive vibe between us, not needing to assign any specific function or purpose to the vocal unit. Each song created its own universe, and in retrospective, it turned out it sounded both as three soloists at times, and at other times as a comping or harmony layout unit. Susana Nunes, Margarida Campelo, Nazaré da Silva, Maria Luísa, João Neves were all part of this team. The last three names, Nazaré da Silva, Maria Luísa, João Neves, are in the following video example of a rehearsal. Example 10. More and more, what interests me the most is to share my music as economically, sparingly, and without the need to limit melody from harmony as possible. And that is a never-ending process of searching and being inspired by so many different ways of treating our own natural instrument, the voice, one note at a time. New example 11, around midnight. Okay, I'll finish with this Milton Nascimento example. Milton Nascimento is an absolute original in every sense, and there could not be a better example of someone that has lived an absolutely free, open to new developments, and truly innovative musician's life. Always with the sound, the voice, the guitar as one entity that, when perfectly in point, is unlike anything else in the music world. So here goes Milton Nascimento soloing on his own Clube da Esquina 2. New example 12.
E lá se vai mais dia.
Okay, that's all we have time for. Thanks for the invitation and see you some other time. Thank you.
Okay, Afonso, thank you so much. Very interesting, very inspiring. We have a few moments to ask if anybody wants to join in. In fact, I had that previous question in the chat box earlier. Afonso, in your second example, João Artur was asking for the name of the song, which is not in the file. So maybe if you can tell us what the name of this song is, the second example, I mean.
It's called Aurora, and music, my music, J.P. Simões lyric. We just had time for the music part, but the record is available online. So it's named Aurora.
Okay, so maybe, thank you, Afonso. Maybe does anybody want to join in with a question or a comment in these final moments of this session, either in the chat box or just raising hand and joining us? I think João Artur is out. I think it's just to acknowledge your answer. So maybe, Afonso, if nobody has nothing to say, maybe one very quick question, like also because I know you for a long time and your music, and I know that you demand a lot from the singers you work with. both melodically, rhythmically, and harmonically. And many times they are required to have a certain instrumental approach also to their vocal interpretation. But maybe the other way around is also important, meaning that you as an improviser and as a guitar player, you always look, are you also looking for the vocal character of your own instrument, of the guitar in this case?
Yeah, Pedro, I think that's definitely it. I mean, the answer is right there. I try as much as possible to bring what would be natural to sing if I was a singer. Fortunately for the world, I am not. But as a guitar player, I try to absorb this simplification and melodic teachings of the voice. And I don't think there's any limit to what could be in the right context, given the right context, what could work musically, and that's a challenge. And also because I work with singers in an equal way. I'm not working with them in the typical accompaniment and singing vein. So basically, it's a challenge. I take the most pleasure to share with the singer when working professionally, and that's it.
Okay, thank you. So does anybody want to join a final comment? Maybe not. I'm not seeing anybody here. Let me just make sure I'm not missing anything. Well, I guess this is it. So Afonso, first of all, thank you so very much for this very interesting and inspiring presentation. And I'd like to thank all of the attendants joining us and watching this session with Afonso. So thank you all. Thank you all also for watching this video, and thank all to all the Medinea On Air team in Aix-en-Provence and all our partners. So I wish you all a great day and see you very soon. Thank you. Bye-bye, everybody.